Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to SCORE State User Training. Today's agenda, we will go over the process overview. We will go into our system demo. The training scope includes the SCORE state site, SCORE user groups, content type, review workflow, action plan implementation workflow, the state site demo, resources, and help documentation. The SCORE state site is a web-based system used to track states' implementation of commercial driver's license regulations. State users will be able to collaborate on reviews and submit action plans and action plan implementations to FMCSA using this site. State users are required to have a login.gov credentials to access the site. State users will be able to access the system using this link, score.fmcsa.dot.gov. The SCORE user groups are divided into division users, service center users, HQ users, and the users that are being trained today, the state users. State users are assigned to only one jurisdiction, so you'll only see content from the state that you're assigned to, and then our administrators. The content types that you will be seeing are the reviews. So FMCSA users would be creating and sharing reviews with the state users. Review types include APR, STR, SIDLIS, legal review, and other. FMCSA users will also be creating findings and submitting it to the state upon approval. State users would also be submitting action plans to resolve their findings. Upon approval of the state users' submitted action plan, they can start implementing an action plan implementation. Action plan implementations are required once the state user completes their action plan. Upon approval of the implementation, the finding record will be closed. The review workflow starts with FMCSA creating a review, opening a review. Once it's open, the state users will be able to view the review in their assignments dashboard and completing a review. FMCSA users can complete the review by entering all the required information. The action plan workflow starts when the state submits an action plan. Then it would be sent to our division team to approve or return to state. Division can approve, and then the action plan is sent to the service center for review. Service center users can either approve or return back to the division. Service center can approve. At that point, it would be sent to HQ, who would have the final decision to approve, reject, or return to state. Once HQ approves, the state has an implementation record created. The state can implement the approved action plan. State submits action plan implementation. HQ approves or returns or rejects that implementation. Once HQ approves the implementation, the finding is closed. Today we are live in the system and you'd be able to access the application using the link provided, score.fmcsa.dot.gov. For assistance, please contact SCORE support at fmcsa-score-support@dot.gov. Now going into our demo. I'm going to sign out. Using the link provided, using the link provided, you would be able to get on the landing page. And from there, you could click sign in. And from here, you would be able to click sign in once more. From there, you would be required to enter your login.gov information. You could either click sign in or create an account, We're going to go ahead and click Sign In. I have an existing login.gov account. If you have an existing login.gov account that is the same as the email address that it was sent to, that the invitation was sent to, please use it here. So I'm going to go ahead and enter it. If you do not have a login.gov account, use create an account. We're going to go ahead and sign in. There's two-factor authentication. Go ahead and hit submit. Here you receive this message informing you that you're accessing a government site. You would click I agree and continue. Here is your profile page. You have the ability to update that information if necessary, and then click assignments. Your assignments dashboard shows everything that has been shared from FMCSA to you. Under active reviews, you get your reviews table. You'll be able to see the review number, review title, review type, schedule date, completed date, status, and modified on. If we click into this review, you'd see all the documents that have been shared with you here, and you would be able to add a comment if you wanted to discuss something with the state. So you would just click add comment. You'd be able to enter the subject. So if you wanted them to review some of the documents, and then you would click submit. And then we see the document below. If you wanted to attach another document, you would just hit add files, choose files, and then you'd be able to add the document there. Okay. Now let's navigate back to our assignments table. We find our active findings and action plans table. This table shows all findings that have been opened against your state. You would see the finding number, the finding title, the regulation, the source of finding, if it's related to a review that's been opened, the corrective action plan, the due date, the status of that action plan. Once a finding has been approved and opened against your state, you'll see that a record has been created and the CAP status is in not started. This would indicate that there is action that is needed to be taken. So here we're going to click into it. Under finding detail, we'd be able to see exactly what FMCSA has found. They provide the finding number, the title, the source of finding, the regulation, the state status, this, the date that we've been notified, the details of the finding. Here would be all the information about what was found. And below that, you'd see historical caps. This is for all action plans that have been submitted and then were rejected. You would see in this table. Historical cap implementations are for all implementations that have been rejected. So now we're going to go ahead and start filling in our details for our action plan. We're going to give a proposed completion date. This is the date that you think you'll be able to complete this action plan. We're going to say we're going to complete it on the 6th. Here you would provide a description. And this would be your basis for your action plan. You'd be able to add files here by clicking Add Files, then choose your file. Here you'd be able to add a comment. You can leverage the comment section to communicate with FMCSA regarding this particular content instead of using maybe email to discuss this action plan and this finding. And then we're going to go ahead and hit save. As you can see, it's now in draft status. It changed from not started to draft. We're going to click back into it. At this time, we could add additional information or add files or comments, but we're going to go ahead and submit it for review. We're just going to wait a couple of seconds for it to update. In the meantime, the cap return count is at 0. Once this number hits 3, so FMCSA has returned an action plan 3 times, this action plan is rejected and the state is required to start a new action plan from scratch and submit that for approval. Okay, let's navigate back. It's in FMCSA review. A notification was sent out to FMCSA informing them that the state has submitted this action plan. Once an action plan has been submitted and approved by FMCSA, it will no longer appear in the active findings and action plans table. It will actually appear in the all findings and action plan table. What you'll see is that these other findings are still in open status, but they have an approved action plan, meaning that the state needs to start implementing an implementation rather than an action plan. So it migrated over to this table, and this table, active findings and action plans, only has all the findings that need an action plan. So now our action plan is in FMCSA review. In the meantime, we will pick up an implementation that is in not started, meaning it has an approved action plan. So from here, we're going to submit this action plan implementation by providing a completion date. And for an implementation, you'd get the findings information, the action plan summary, and here you'd be able to enter the completion date. As you can see, it's in not started status. Our return count is 0. You can upload documents like we did before. You can add comments as well. We're going to go ahead and hit save. It's now updated in draft status. We're able to continue to make edits. As you can see, the CAP description pulls in the action plan description for the approved action plan. But if you made any changes during the implementation, you would be able to add additional updates here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and hit submit. As you can see, it captured our completion date. We're going to hit submit once more. And wait for the status to update. As you can see, the status has updated to CAP complete, meaning it's now with FMCSA. Our FMCSA user will approve this implementation. and we'll see what happens once it's approved. As you can see, it's still in cap complete, meaning it's still being reviewed by our HQ team. We're just waiting on HQ to approve this implementation and for the status to update. Sorry, it seems like it's taking a little bit of time. Ika, were you able to approve this implementation?
Yeah, I just did.
Okay. As you can see, the implementation has been approved. It's no longer in our active implementations table. Let's navigate over to our all content, all implementations table. And you see that it has updated to cap closed, indicating that this finding as well as this cap is now closed. If we navigate to the associated findings under all findings and action plans, we see that the finding has also been resolved, meaning that the action plan and implementation have resolved the finding. That concludes our approval for an action plan and an action plan implementation. Now we are going to go into a rejection workflow. We're going to submit this implementation to be rejected by our HQ team, our FMCSA team. We're going to hit save. It's the same idea that we just did. We're going to hit submit again. We're going to wait for it to update, for the status to update from draft to cap complete. And the status now updated to cap complete. So now our FMCSA user is going to reject this implementation in order to see what happens when an implementation is rejected. Is now in cap complete status. We're just waiting for the status to update from CAP Complete. Okay, as you can see, we no longer have that implementation in our active implementations. Instead, it's now back in our active finding and action plans table. When an implementation is rejected, it also rejects the underlying action plan. So we're going to navigate over to this finding. You see it's back and not started. We're going to click into it. We see the finding details here, and we see the historical caps, indicating that this action plan has been also rejected. We're going to click View Details, and this would show us all the action plan details. So if you wanted to reference the action plan that's been rejected, you would be able to see it here. Additionally, this is the implementation that's been rejected. You'd be able to click on it to view details and see the basis for the implementation being rejected. And below that, you see FMCSA return comments. So whenever the action plan or the implementation does get returned, you would see it, or you'd see the comments for the basis of return right here. Additionally, if it got rejected, you would also see the reasoning for rejected here. You can then put in a new proposed completion date and put in the description and hit save. Go ahead and hit submit. You see it's an FMCSA review. Now with this action plan, you can trigger the action plan workflow again. And that's how you would work on a review, finding an action plan, as well as an implementation. At the top, you have all content that we referenced earlier. Under all reviews, you get this review table. As you can see, it pulls in both open and completed reviews. So if you needed to reference previous reviews that have been opened for your state, you'd be able to see it here. All findings and action plans show both opened findings that are either have a action plan that's not been started or that's under review, as well as closed action plans that have an associated approved action plan. So you'd be able to see all that content here. Same with implementations, you'd be able to see the rejected implementations, the closed implementations um, in this table as well. To the right of that, we do have our reports mechanism, our module here, where you can click into it. Here you'd be able to see all the findings. You'd be able to download as PDF. You could filter by year, status, regulations, and the year. You can go to findings with action plan to show you the findings that have an associated action plan. And then you can provide these filters to help you locate what you're looking for. You can navigate to findings without action plans to show you findings that don't have an associated action plan, where you still need to do some work. Here is the action plan report. If you wanted to look at all the action plans, and this is a finding and action plan status report. Okay, that concludes score our score training. If you need any assistance, reach us at FMCSA score-support at dot.gov. Okay, thank you for joining our state user training today.